This is a leather jacket. Um, I learned all my leather stuff at Leatherbound LTD in California and the Woodland Hills Mall on Topanga Canyon. And I was very lucky to work this place because I learned so much about leather and how leather will last several people's lifetimes. Like, your grandpa had a jacket, it went to your dad, and then your dad's jacket went to you, and guess what? Next it's going to go to the grandkids. If you take care of them, they last a really, really long time. Some leathers are more delicate than others, um, but there is only one that is water resilient. One. There's just one. And what would that be? Cabretta. Cabretta is a sheep, and the hair follicles on cabretta are so tight together that it creates a water resistant finish. And most cabretta will tend to look shiny like plastic. Let's see if I can bring this on in. This is some conditioner right now. This is some carbon, but it'll tend to look real plastic looking. Normally, I'm conditioning this jacket. It's already been done twice. I've got to do it again. But it'll always look like plastic, like vinyl clothes or something. And you'll go, that jacket's fake. And go look at the tag inside, because if the tag inside should tell you shell and that, and it is going to say right on the tag if it's real leather. If it doesn't say leather anywhere on that tag, it's probably not going to be leather unless it's a custom piece or made out of the United States, like in Mexico or Europe or something. But see, that says genuine leather. So when I look at the tag and I look at the finish, I know that it's leather. And because the finish is shiny looking, I know it's cabretta, and I can see the little tiny hair follicles in it. This particular jacket is a dated, probably late 70s. But see how many lifetimes it's last? This jacket has been around the world and back. This was a very popular style in the 70s, the late 70s, to do patchwork leather, patchwork jeans, and stuff like that. This is a patchwork jacket. That means it's kind of like a quilt. It has different shapes, and then it zigzagged in to hold it down. Patchwork. Okay. This jacket, out of all the leathers, you can wear this jacket in the rain. That's right. And so, if you live in New York, Chicago, or somewhere where it rains all the time, NOLA, um, you just take this thing and shake it off and hang it up and let it air dry. You know, um, it just really does well in the rain because the pores for the hair follicles of the sheep are so tight that it makes this more. It's less porous than normal leather is. Um, so it's almost like wearing a raincoat. It's one of the only leathers that that is basically doesn't get real damaged in rain. Because the other ones will, especially suede. Suede gets really mad if you get it wet and does terrible watermark stuff, and it's really hard to get stuff out of it. And that's because it has a porous surface. Um, when I took interior design 1, 2, and 3 at the military college in Oklahoma, uh, you know, that was all the classes I had. I was like, you don't have 4, 5, 6, and it was so easy for me. And my teacher said, "Oh, you make a fabulous interior designer." Well, it was just so easy for me. It was freaking boring. But we had a end of the year party, dinner party, where special students were invited to her home. And I brought a dish, um, and she stole my dish, my beautiful Pyrex with the cover, everything. Um, and she had this great wall, and it was very stylish to have this rough beech driftwood looking wood, and then it cut into angles and put on a wall like around a fireplace or something, or a whole wall done in, like, horizontals and diagonals and zigzaggy pattern, and it had the little holes in the wood and it real textury, like it's not something you could run your hand across, and it was real velvety smooth. It had texture to it, and that stuff always looks so great. I love stuff like that. And I told her, I said, boy, that wall is so wonderful, in your house here. I just love it. She says, I hate it. I said, why? It's gorgeous, and it took a lot of work to fit all those pieces in and everything. She said, I hate it because it is the worst wall in my whole house. I'm like, why? And she says, well, because it's always dusty. And I said, well, why would it always be dusty? And she's like, oh, it's horrible. She said, it collects every bit of dust. You open a door, a window, something, all that stuff collects on there like a magnet, and you have to constantly like brush it and vacuum it off because it just constantly is collecting dust. And I said, well, why would that be? And she said, because it's a porous surface. So, and it's the same way with, like, say, a car surface. A car is shiny, it's not going to hold a lot of dust and dirt as much as a matte finish car, which those are so ugly. It looks like you can't afford a paint job. Um, a matte finish car will just grab everything and it sticks to that finish because it's not soft and smooth. So, your glossies and that don't grab a lot of stuff. It resists more, where your matte finishes will not. Just like that wood wall at my interior design teacher's house that was so gorgeous. It sucks up all the trash. And so anyway, this is a very popular design in the 70s for the patchwork. And I mean, it's good for the manufacturer because they can chop off the best pieces of the leather and small pieces and sew it together. It takes a lot of work to put it together. I had a competitor that used to make showgirl panties with like 15 pieces of fabric. I said, my God, I do mine. Mine are one piece. That way there's no seam at the coochie or any of that stuff. It's one piece, and there you have it. And I said, that's what I'm going to do. I want to cut out one piece, and I want to sew it. I said, how can you put like 11, 12, 15 pieces together to make one panty? And she's like, oh, well, because I can cut all this stuff out of the fabric, all these different things, tops and shorts and pants and skirts and all this. She says, and then all the scrap, I can cut it up and I can make so many panties out of it. So I utilize every inch of the fabric. And I'm like, it's not worth my time. You can sit there and babysit that. All that is more seams to fall apart. Because unless you do it in a patchwork system like this is done, where you actually overstitch the edges to hold them together so that it doesn't fall apart, um, it's ineffective because a panty is going to be worn a lot. And those edges, you can't go zigzag all those edges up when you're sewing a panty in 11 or 14 pieces together instead of just one cut pattern or two at the most. But it's real pretty. Um, and it takes time to make that. But I've always liked patchwork look. I think it's really, really, really pretty. But this jacket doesn't collect dirt as much as the textured leathers and suedes. And I did another vlog about leather, educating people about leather. It's all leather, whether it's suede, whether it's cabretta, whether it's boar skin or cowhide, whatever it is, it's leather. This is leather. I'm human. This is leather. You know, if you strip my skin off, you can make a jacket out of it too. That's leather. It's a hide. It's a skin. So, uh, but you know, your leathers that have a porous finish, like your suedes, you know, it may be soft, but it's got a texture to it, just like that lady's wall in her house. The texture will attract the dirt. That's why suedes have to be brushed all the time, and they have to be sprayed and brushed because you know they get dirty, the stuff gets on them. They get shiny and look like leather in spots because they've got wear on them or they got some goo on them, and that can most of the time be removed. But you have to maintain a suede a lot. It's a high maintenance fabric compared to you know a one-sided leather, you know, like the shiny leather with the shiny finish and doesn't have a pile or a texture, because they take this and they will generally split a hide. They literally take the thing and split it in half, or maybe several of them, and then you get, you know, suede on one side and suede on that other piece, and that's suede. Okay, it's still leather. So I love suede. It's pretty. It is so beautiful, and I have been through suede where I ended up getting rid of it to somebody that really loved it because it makes me mad. Because you can't get caught in the rain with it. It just gets trashed. And I don't care if you spray waterproofer and all that. And that's the worst thing to put on leather. Don't do all that garbage. There's enough conditioners around like Picard that will help protect a leather garment and make it a little more water resilient. But the only leather that is naturally water resilient is cabretta. And that's this funny stuff that looks plastic and fake, but it's not. It's just a different type of a hide. So uh, there's your education for today on leather. I did some other vlogs on leather, but I wanted to, you know, show you this because it's you don't see it very often. In the 70s and 80s, you saw it a lot. You went, that sucker's fake. So you had to go look at the tag to see if it was actually, in fact, leather. And 90% of the time, it was leather. It just looked fake. And it never really appealed to me because who wants a jacket that looks like it's plastic, right? Um, but when I worked at Leather Banner Ltd, you know, we had some gorgeous cabretta jackets just like this same style, this kind of flight biker jacket kind of flyboy thing going on. Um, uh, you know, the disco era. Uh, these are beautiful jackets. And they're inexpensive leather. It's not cowhide. You know, it is cabretta. It's a sheep. They told me it's a sheep that lives up in the high mountains, like the Alps or something, I guess. And you know, they're used for food. So all you vegans out there, they're used for food, and they get sheared a lot for their wool. Okay, so we're making clothes from wool. Okay, and then their hides make wonderful leather clothing that's water resilient naturally. Of course, with every leather item, you really need to clean and condition it at least every 6 months. So it will just last indefinitely. Otherwise, they start feeling like wood. They start smelling like an old boat. Um, and, you know, you just take care of it, and it'll be around with you for your whole lifetime and somebody else's too. Anyway, I just thought I'd teach you a little bit about cabretta. Um, yep, it's the guy that looks like plastic, but it's not. And it's an expensive leather. It is not cheap. It's more expensive than boar skin, and boar skin's a real high grade leather that feels very velvety. But boar skin is generally in a suede and not a split skin. And it's the one with the little tiny polka dots in it. And, you know, again, it's a suede with no pile basically. It's just kind of velvety smooth. It's like short pile shag, you know, where the cheap suedes that are cowhide are like long pile shag carpet. So there you have it. Thought I'd give you a little bit of education about that because I've been seeing a lot listed on the internet, and I can look right at it and go, that's Cabretta. What a dum dum. They didn't even put a good description in what it is, which adds value to it. It is not a $20 used jacket. This is an expensive jacket. So, yeah, learn your products, learn the mercantile business, learn what it's made out of. And right now on eBay, it's real popular to know when it's born. And guess what? I was there and I know. So, there you have it. This is a vintage 70s Cabretta jacket. That's right. I'll talk to you guys later. I hope I helped you. And we'll see you in the next one. I love you. Do something kind for a stranger. I hope this tornado goes away because it's kind of creepy.